Fred Weir is a journalist and political commentator joining us from Moscow. We have Marcus Papadopoulos, historian, political analyst, and author, joining us from London. Welcome to you both. Fred Weir, Russia has said time and again that sending more weapons to Ukraine is not going to not only solve the conflict, but it's going to prolong it. Why do you think that the U.S. and its European allies, or NATO members, continue to sell and ship arms to Ukraine?
Well, to prolong the conflict. I think that this is turned into a kind of existential struggle. Particularly the United States has invested heavily in the idea that this confrontation will weaken, perhaps cripple Russia, and restore the American hegemony or leadership, whatever it's called, over the Western world. And so forth. This is the course of action, and I don't think I'm saying anything controversial here. The thing that is most striking to me is that the material support, the arms, and moral backing that they're giving is one thing, and entirely defensible in their own terms. It is not accompanied by any diplomatic efforts or pressures whatsoever. It is just remarkable how absent, even compared to other conflicts of the past, how there's a complete vacuum of diplomatic initiative.
Marcus Papadopoulos, why do you think that vacuum exists?
Well, the Americans, and of course NATO as a whole, are attempting to exhaust the Russian army in the hope that this will suffocate the Russian economy, which would result in the Russian Federation facing a catastrophic situation whereby Russia no longer is a superpower. And what I find particularly worrying is that there are no rational or level-headed politicians in either Washington or in London or indeed Brussels, which is the home to NATO, because Russia is a nuclear superpower. It has the largest nuclear arsenal in the world. The lengths to which Western policymakers are going to try and defeat the Russian army is exceedingly dangerous. But I want to say that I am of the firm opinion that Western efforts will fail. Russian military strategy, which descends from the Soviet Union, is quite distinct to that of Western military strategy. Indeed, how Russia makes war has historically baffled Western military experts. Turning to Ukraine, the Russians are waging a war of attrition against the Ukrainian armed forces, in which unit after unit, regiment after regiment, division after division of the Ukrainian army is being ground down and devoured by Russian firepower, specifically Russian artillery, which since the latter stages of the Second World War until the present day is widely recognized as the most formidable in the world. So in essence, the war in Ukraine is a war of artillery. Furthermore, in recent days, a document was leaked or appeared in the public domain, and it is claimed that it was leaked by a member of the Ukrainian High Command, in which the document stated that since the beginning of the Russian military campaign in Ukraine until the present day, the Ukrainian armed forces have incurred 191,000 losses, by which that means killed in action, wounded in action, and taken prisoner by the Russians. Now, I do not know the veracity of this document, but it is noticeable and perhaps quite telling that neither the Ukrainian government nor the Ukrainian High Command nor Western mainstream media has made any
Sure.
mention of this document.
Well, Fred Weir, in terms of the military aspect of this whole conflict, it's not as if Ukraine has made real advancements that they can claim for it to be a success, where adding more weapons into their arsenal is going to lead to them being successful. I mean, at least in the recent months, practically. So what hope is there that the U.S. and its allies are looking to achieve by sending more military equipment to Ukraine?
I think there is a narrative that's widely believed. I know a lot of my colleagues think that Western military aid will turn the tide. It is what is being put out of Kiev, and some military experts. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really ring true to me. I sit here and I read the reports of Russian war correspondents in the Ministry of Defense, and it does seem to me that they are gradually wearing down those heavily fortified regions of the Donbass. I mean, it's going very slowly. Ukrainians are fighting well. Even Russian war correspondents admit that they are showing surprising resilience. And the American weapons, particularly those HIMARS, are assisting them, that they are hitting Russian targets, ammunition dumps, and train depots and such. So the war is being prolonged. Whether the Ukrainians can muster the great counteroffensive in the south that they keep promising is one of the things that we will await in the next week or two. It doesn't look like it, but a lot of this Ukraine is winning narrative hinges upon them launching this counteroffensive and succeeding at it to retake Kherson in those southern regions. So we must just watch and see how it goes.
Final question to you, Marcus Papadopoulos. There was a report that came out. I'm pretty sure that you've heard of it, even though CBS actually has retracted that in the form of a documentary. And it was about how 70% of these arms don't actually end up in Ukrainian hands, or the Ukrainian soldiers or security forces. God knows where they're going. What do you make of that report?
Well, I found it very telling how the news outlet, a few days after having published the report, then retracted it. To me, that indicates that the report, to a large extent, was accurate. After all, ever since Ukraine became an independent country in December of 1991, Ukraine has been one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Indeed, untold amounts of money has been laundered in Ukraine. And I believe that what we are seeing at present is no different. Money is being laundered in Ukraine. Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. And now that the Russian army is in Ukraine, there is no chance, it is simply inconceivable that the Kremlin will allow the Russian army to be defeated. Mm-hmm. One has to understand the Russian psyche. One has to understand the Russian mindset. The Russians will go to any length to defend their motherland. So whatever the cost to the Russian army in Ukraine, the right. Kremlin and the Russian people as a whole will be prepared to make that sacrifice.
Thank you for that. Marcus Papadopoulos, historian, political analyst, and author. Thank you. And Fred Weir, thank you for your contribution, journalist and political commentator from Moscow. And with that, we come to an end for this news review. Thanks for tuning in.